Hello, this Forward HR Solutions resource is for managers looking at the creation of a whistleblowing policy. In this first programme, we'll look at what it is, why you would want one, and the implications of having one for managers and employees. The term whistleblower has been used to describe a person who discloses information regarding concerns about some form of wrongdoing or misconduct that comes to the attention of others, either inside or outside their organisation. Unfortunately, we most often become aware of an incident of whistleblowing when things have gone wrong, usually when the whistleblower has been dismissed or suffered some other horror. Public opinion tends to support the whistleblower on the grounds that she or he has done their public duty. This is particularly so when the subject of whistleblowing is well-founded. Unfortunately, however, the message that emerges from media reports of whistleblowing tends to be negative, that those who put their heads above the parapet and speak out are liable to be penalised in some way. Compliance and ethical crises can have significant impacts for organisations. These can take the form of wounding the reputation of the organisation, creating enormous costs, impacting operations, damaging employee motivation and morale, certainly angering stakeholders, and inviting legal and statutory sanction and potentially prison. Major compliance and ethical concerns facing organisations include being dishonest to customers, employees, or the public, conflicts of interest, violations of safety regulations, goods and services that fail to meet expectations, alterations of documents and misuse of confidential information, discrimination of any kind, systemic bullying or sexual harassment, and inappropriate behaviour. Managers shouldn't assume the requirements of lawful or ethical behaviour are widely understood. Increasingly, through policies, procedures and management intervention, organisations can make explicit the kind of practices and standards they're willing to accept, and they can put in place measures to ensure that these practices are implemented across the entire organisation. This is an area where Forward HR Solutions can be particularly helpful. Common sense should dictate that people who run organisations would support and encourage the raising of genuinely held concerns about issues of importance, and would ensure that employees who wish to raise concerns about wrongdoing in the workplace should be protected from repercussions for their actions. At the same time, private employment grievances should be addressed through the appropriate grievance, bullying or harassment policies which organisations provide for this. A whistleblowing policy is introduced for good practice or as a management initiative or prompted by an incident. It contributes towards effective risk management systems. It contributes to good communication systems. Research has shown that employees are usually the first to realise there may be something seriously wrong in an organisation. They may not express their concerns because they may feel that speaking up would be disloyal to colleagues or the organisation. Employees may be afraid of being seen as a troublemaker in an environment where other things are seen as more important, and where success is not conducive to listening to things that are wrong. Employees may also fear harassment or victimisation if they speak up. In these circumstances, it may be easier to turn a blind eye rather than to report what may be just a suspicion of malpractice. Let's take a closer look at the staff member's dilemma, courtesy of some slides prepared by Public Concern at Work. The dilemma, the first one, is the tendency to keep quiet, the concern that it's only a suspicion. No one else can be bothered. The concern that it'll only cause trouble for people. The feeling that I don't want to be a sneak. Or, worst of all, that nothing will be done. So you have that concern about malpractice. You're worried about telling your manager. You're worried if you're asked to prove it. You're worried about how far up does it go. And you're certainly worried about what do you do if you're wrong. And the dilemma continues. And if you can't raise it internally, who do you go to externally? How do you do it? What will they do? And what if you're found out? These are all classic dilemmas which go through the mind of a staff member when considering whether to raise a concern either internally or externally. Organisations, in dealing with malpractice concerns, can make a practical response. They can reassure people that there's a safe alternative to silence. They can ensure that the person who speaks up is seen as a witness, not a complainant. They can encourage managers to be open to concerns, and they can allow the organisation, through the appropriate policies and procedures, to demonstrate effective self-regulation. In our next programme, we'll look at the creation of a whistleblowing policy, its contents, how you would communicate it, and the issues within the policy and the procedures for management and staff. Remember, we're available to you with free advice. We can give you support in addressing cultural concerns through, for example, ethical audits. We'll facilitate an action plan coming from the audits or discussions with you, which may include the drafting of appropriate procedures. We can support that by training and other sustainment processes. We have the experience and expertise to add value to your needs.